Okay, so this video is designed to try to show people how we can make some large image previews of the document with the ribbon. To start out with, you can see there's this ribbon artwork adjustable final, and you can see it's done in Illustrator, so everything here is a vector, and this is where everything kind of started. I think for the time being we'll try doing these without colored ribbons, even though instructions down here for changing or updating the color of the ribbon is shown. This file, you really won't need to touch it very much, but you can see it's in Growth Charts, Design Resources, AI Ribbon file, and that's actually saved as a CS6 file, so I'll save this as a CS5 file actually, for those of you who don't have the latest copy. But for the most part, again, you won't really need to use that. If we go over here to Photoshop, you can see this is kind of my Photoshop layer, and this one is called templatebuilder.psd, and you can see where that one is here. It's in Growth Chart Files, Design Resources, JPG Preview PSD with ribbon, and that should be saved as a CS5 file as well. We'll just double check it and make sure so that everybody can open it. So if you take a look at this document, a couple of things that I kind of want you to note about this document. We're actually making bigger image previews just for the hell of it. This document, you can see the image canvas size is 3000 by 3000, so it's a pretty big document. We probably don't need to do them that big, but if we start from top to bottom, I'll kind of sweep through here. You can see that the group of layers for the top ribbons with all the different lighting effects I've sort of made here to make it look like this is wrapping over the back. That's all sort of in there. And if you scroll down, similarly for these kind of bottom ribbons. And move a little further, this is one of the growth charts, and you can see this one's been rasterized, and here's a backup layer of that one that's still a smart object from when I just posted the Illustrator file in here. And the reason for that is because to make this look really lifelike, there's sort of this slight curvature. You can see that so that it looks more real. And then underneath that we have this shadow layer, and if I toggle that on and off, you can see that's this layer, and for the most part you shouldn't have to mess with that. On Zulily, they take a lot of photographs of their previews instead of making these mocked up previews, and as such the backgrounds tend to shift a lot. So for every other preview you make, it's probably fine to just toggle off like one of these background layers, and it's very subtle. You can see if I'm toggling on and off, just the gray shade changes a little bit, just as if you took a camera and shot a bunch of photos of the same wall. Just if it's set to auto, the aperture and such makes a little bit of variation from one JPEG to the other. So what I'm going to do is show you how to go through and make these previews so that you sort of get this effect. If I toggle over to my Finder window, you can see in Master Image Library AI Files for Print, there is the AI files here. So what I do is just go File, Place, Master Image Library, AI Files for Print, and I will grab, I don't know, one of these. Say OK, and since it's an AI file and I'm posting into a Photoshop document, it will always post as large as it can as a smart object, so you can see it's posting kind of up to the top. So right here is where you can hold down your Shift and your Alt key at the same time, and that'll constrain the object from the center. So when you move your mouse up and down, it sort of makes it smaller and larger from the center. So all I'm proposing we do here is basically get it just about as wide as the one that's under there now, which is sort of about right there. And then I'll go ahead and just click this or hit enter, and that will place the file. And then turn off my auto select so I can move this, and then you can sort of move it down. And if you zoom in, so you can see like the other one, the top is right about there, and I have smart guides turned on, so you can see that little pink line popping there. To turn on your smart guides, of course, you just go View, Show, Smart Guides. And since I'm not using these other two layers, you can keep those there as just kind of your guide layers. It's as you're working on these documents. And go ahead and toggle those off. Now, if we zoom back out, you can see that this Illustrator file is still just kind of straight up and down. It doesn't have that curvature in it. Even though this shadow, the way I made it, it kind of sweeps out from the top and then goes in from the center and then sweeps out again from the top, creates an illusion of this thing, you know, having a narrower center as if it really were hanging on the wall. But kind of what I like to do is just right click and say rasterize layer, and then what you can do is go edit, transform, and then you can say distort. So well, maybe it's not distort, it might be skew, I forgot here. Let's go edit, transform, maybe it's skew. Edit, transform, skew. Okay, well, I always forget which one it is. Not that one. Maybe it's warp. I don't think it's warp. Oh yeah, it is actually warp. So you just take these and just move them in like ever so slightly, like really, really slightly. And it's actually possible to do this way too much. Even this little pop is probably way too much. So if I click the little arrow sign and say apply, that's probably not bad. I personally think it's a little bit too much, but if you're in a hurry, it still looks pretty lifelike. And then you just want to come down here and zoom in and make sure that you know, this thing is kind of down far enough. And in this particular case, actually, kind of doesn't really look like it is. For whatever reason, it's posted. Looks like we want to move it down a little bit further. So I'll just use my little V key here, kind of nudge it down so it's snapped to the top of that dowel there. And then if we come over here and then zoom back in to check the bottom, I'm just checking the length. You can see that the lighting and effects and everything are sort of in place. And that's still not quite right for whatever reason. Now, if you really wanted to be nitpicky from one to the other, I'm not sure why it's a different size, maybe because I skewed one more than the other, you can toggle the whole dowel group, select the V key, and then you can see you can just go ahead and move that up like that if you want to. And zoom out. So I like that. I think that looks pretty good. And then what you do is we're going to save all the Photoshop files and then also the JPEG files. So we're going to go ahead and start a new JPEG Previews folder, I think. Yeah, I think we will start a new JPEG Previews folder right here. And so I need to know the name of this particular one. So I'll go back and you can see that it was, let's see, what was it here? Let's see, which one was I working on? The Marigold Butterfly one. Not quite sure which one that was. Marigold and Ladybugs. So I'll hit the Enter key to highlight that just so I can cut and paste the title. And then we'll try this again. So I'll go File, Save As. And then paste the title there, like so. And actually, you know what we'll do? Not all of our previews from one project to the next are going to use the ribbon, so we'll put these in a master called With Ribbons. And now I'm ready to save that as a Photoshop file first. Okay, keep the maximize compatibility turned on, say OK. And then I'm going to go File, also save for web, JPEG maximum. And we will similarly put that here in JPEG Previews. And I'm not quite sure where the With Ribbons folder is. Where did that go? Weird. I'm not seeing that there for whatever reason. Thought we just made one with ribbons. So let's just double check and make sure that we didn't lose it. Should be right in there. Let's just double check to make sure we're starting the folder in the right place. I know we made something called with ribbons. Let's see here, JPG Previews. Oh, it went into design resources. So that was not a good idea. So let's go ahead while I'm in here and move this whole thing to JPG Previews. And now I'm ready to go ahead and save this as a JPEG. So that should be good, and we'll go back out and check it. JPG Previews with ribbons, and there's the Photoshop file and the JPEG file. So the only change, like I said, I'd make to this if you really wanted to be nitpicky was maybe not have the curvature come in quite as far, but I think this looks pretty good. So for the time being, I think we're done, and then why don't you go ahead and Michael, make one or two, and then circulate an email. Let us know when you're done. We'll come back into this folder and check your work and just make sure it's saved okay. All right, so that's it.